Get those nerds! Nerds! Nerds!
Are you recording?
I am.
Okay. Cool.
You see green bars?
I can see the green bar.
As long as they're green, we're in the
green.
Oh god, I should really come up with better phrasing for that.
Yeah.
As long as they're clear, we're in the green. No, as long as
it's moving, we're in the green.
as long as it's green, your pipes are clean. No? I don't think that one makes sense.
I don't know if that makes sense either.
Yeah, okay, my bad.
So I think we're already going to be off to a safer start with this one because Jesse Tepper isn't here.
Oh god. That boy scares me.
I'm
I'm genuinely
pretty sure
worried.
he's currently like in interrogation room B at some police station.
I am not going to lie. I'm like 25% worried for people's safety with that kid. He's
in charge of trains now.
Oh, God. He's responsible for human lives. That is never a good sign.
I wonder if he's the guy who like pulls the e-brake on trains just to see how it works.
And then pulls it off and strangles someone with it?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the Dorkside Podcast, brought to you by Darkside Records, 611 Dutchess Turnpike in Poughkeepsie. We have another podcast called the Darkside Records Podcast. You can find that on iTunes, but you know what? That one, that's for smart folks and your thinking and your music and your guest stars and your exclusives and your song premieres and such. This
and your crime, your true crime stories is also an area we're branching into.
You mean admissible evidence that's going to be used in the case against Jesse Tepper?
Yep.
Gotcha. This podcast is dedicated to all things nerdy. Because myself, I'm JB.
I'm Berto.
We happen to be the resident nerds of Darkside. No shame in that game.
Not much shame.
So we are bringing you this podcast so we can skip all the music, everything else, and just focus on something near and dear to our hearts. To our nerdy
things we get excited about and no one else does, basically.
Yeah. To be fair, JJ does get marginally excited about these things. I don't think he gets excited the same way we do.
Probably not. More excited, like, shut up and do work.
Yeah. And, it's like we'll talk about a movie. We're like, oh my god, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is coming out. And he'll be like, yeah, that sounds fun. I'll go to that.
What's that tree doing there?
Why is there a tree talking? It's fun. It's all good. I like this.
Is that the guy from Parks and Rec?
You kids and your fun. Just a quick warning. There are many spoilers in this podcast.
Yes.
We're gonna lay it all out there. We're gonna talk about things that are coming up, things we know, things we speculate on. But this is a spoilery podcast.
Yep.
You have been warned. So, this is episode 5 of the Dorkside Podcast.
Wow.
Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. We're almost at half of a baker's dozen.
Is this episode 5?
I'm not good at math.
The Dork Strike Back?
Are we keeping our episode names to Star Trek episodes?
Star Wars.
That's clearly what I said.
Snafu.
That's what I said.
Last time it was Grand Moff Tarkin, and now it's this. Moomra Thundercat.
Oh, I just want to point out also, before we get into our topic at hand this week, the last 2 podcasts that we did were dedicated to nerdy 2016 movies that were coming out.
Yes.
Winter Soldier, Captain America, all the Marvel franchises.
The summer blockbusters.
The DC franchises, exactly.
Jason Bourne.
And we had a conversation about Star Trek Episode 7, and we had a conversation about Rogue One.
Yeah.
And I had a customer come into the store, and how can I put this gently? He very directly called me out to my face that we were spreading misinformation on our podcast.
Oh, right. Okay.
To be fair,
I remember what this was about.
I'm pretty sure this guy also assumes that we prepare for the podcast, which we do not.
What an idiot.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir, but I mean, come on. Who do you think you're dealing with here?
And he pointed out that on the podcast we talked about Peter Cushing, or as I called him, more Cushing for the pushing.
That's right. Yeah.
And you said he was returning for his role as
Grand
Mothman.
Moff Tarkin. Correct.
That's basically what
I guess I misspoke. Mm-hmm. I'll take the blame. I misspoke in the last podcast. I won't accuse the listener of having misheard. Mm-hmm. I misspoke. Mm-hmm. The character Grand Moff Tarkin is visible in the trailers for Rogue One. Now, no longer played by Peter Cushing because Peter Cushing is in fact quite dead.
That was another point he made sure I understood.
We're not
clearly.
talking like Marlon Brando, we're going to bring back the hologram for Superman Returns, and then forget that movie ever happened. He's dead, and I believe that the character is present as a younger incarnation, because this is obviously a precursor to A New Hope.
Wait, that was Bryan Singer, right? Superman Returns? That was his attempt at a Superman movie?
Yep.
Oh,
He basically
DC.
took Superman and he's like, I'm going to do everything I did to the X-Men with Superman. And he succeeded. He succeeded. He did everything he did to X-Men with Superman and made it completely unwatchable.
I'm going to make it as good as X3.
Oh.
Rough.
Well, so yeah, there's my what do they call it in the news when you gotta like change something, a redaction or
That's your
a
redaction?
correction? Yeah, I'm correcting past statements.
We should make a bit out of this with all the misinformation that we clearly spread in this. I'll make a little jingle at the beginning. Da-da-da, we're stupid.
Yes.
So, thank you, whoever you were 2 months ago, for pointing this out to me.
Thanks, guy.
But, so episode 5, actually the topic for this episode was originally going to be the things that we neglected to talk about in the last 2 podcasts.
Right.
Nerdy things we overlooked. TV shows, streaming shows.
Yeah.
Books.
We overlooked a lot of TV.
We overlooked a lot of
TV
nerdery.
happened like in the last 6 months since we started this thing.
You mean year, but it's fine.
Shut up.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I think even before, like a lot's happened since we decided to do a TV episode.
And in fact, it was a fan of the podcast who, I'll call her Cole,
Yes.
sent a
Codename Cole.
very, what's a word that means angry, but not in a way that's going to get you in trouble?
It wasn't even a send. We were in the car listening to the last episode, and I just got this list of things that we hadn't talked about. Like, why haven't we talked about this? Why didn't you talk about this? You didn't mention Jessica Jones. She's a huge Jessica Jones fan. So here that is. This episode is basically saving my relationship.
Okay.
So what's happening
Well,
here.
good.
So we can't fuck this up.
So, let's kick it off talking about the first thing she mentioned, which is TV shows.
Yes.
Specifically, streaming TV shows.
Which is a huge market these days.
Yeah.
Like that's where they go. That's if you want to do a good show, you can take it to streaming.
I mean, you look at the success that so many of these shows have had. I mean, really, we're talking about within the last year, last 2 years, they have become huge, and their prevalence in the landscape of media that comes out, like it went from being a very niche market to huge. I mean, talking about like the Marvel shows that are on Netflix, like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, and look at Stranger Things. Stranger Things was tremendous. Oh my God!
Luke Cage crashed Netflix a week before the North Koreans did.
Or did he? Dun, dun, dun. So let's talk about a couple of those. Let's dial back and talk about a couple of those.
Do you want to do chronologically?
Let's just start with that one we just mentioned, Stranger Things.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
You watched the whole thing?
I watched the whole thing.
I also watched the whole thing. Oh, really quick, what we need to do before we get any further. This week's scale, this week's ratings scale is going to be Star Wars movies.
Okay.
From episode 6 to episode 1.
Okay.
Because I would say that's the order they go in terms of how good they are. I think episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
I see. Now we're going to start a thing, because I believe that Empire Strikes Back is the strongest Star Wars film.
How's about this? We'll make it a 5-star rating system.
Okay.
We go 5 to 1.
Okay, that's fair.
Empire Strikes Back to Phantom Menace.
Fair.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Stranger Things, I really enjoyed. I would go as far as to give it... Oh, what the hell? I'm going to give it an Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Beyond New Hope, you're going to Empire.
Yeah.
I would give it... Yeah, I would probably agree with you.
Yeah.
I think.
Maybe
a hope and a half, but pretty close to the top.
It was one of those shows that just came out of nowhere. I had zero expectations for it, and I mean, obviously, there was huge buzz. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was saying, "Watch it." I watched it. I'll admit, at first, skeptically, but I was hooked, man. Like I don't marathon shows very often. I marathoned that show.
It did a lot of things right.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I saw like the month before it went live on Netflix. when you open the Netflix app, my TV, and it has like the first thing that pops up is like what they're promoting. Mm-hmm. So it's the next big thing, and it had like the little trailer, like coming next month to Netflix, like add to your list. And I watched the trailer. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like a sci-fi thing. Sure, I'll add to my list. And then it came up, and like Cole and I were sitting there, like, oh, let's check this out. It looked kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Done. Like sucked in. Mm-hmm. I think we're up to like 2 a.m. the first night, like just watching it.
That's what I mean. Like I don't marathon a lot of TV shows, and we were watching, 3 or 4 at a clip.
Yeah,
because we were hooked.
And kids, just so you know, when you hit 30, 3 or 4 at a clip, that's a fucking marathon right there.
That's an evening.
You got work in the morning, and you're pushing it.
Mm-hmm. You're up to 1:30.
Oh God! Oh Jesus!
It was Berto's birthday this week. He just turned 30.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club, buddy.
Oh.
Talk to me in 7 years.
Off my lawn.
We'll see.
So, I guess what I love like the old kind of 80s campy horror movies. Like they're not always good. Mm-hmm. In fact, they're seldom like good movies. But there's something like about that vibe, like that kind of nostalgic cheesiness that they took themselves so fucking seriously. Mm-hmm. And looking back, I'm like, oh my God, John Carpenter, that's silly. But it's great. I mean, at the same time, I think Stranger Things really kind of played each aspect properly. Like they paid homage to the old classics without going too far.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that there's so many nods to so many classic movies from my childhood.
Yep.
And I'll say parts of your childhood.
Okay. Old Man River.
Okay.
Yep.
And so many things, but they were done well.
Yeah.
It didn't come across
cheesy.
as campy. Yeah, it didn't.
One of my favorite things, like early on, was like the opening sequence, the credits. Mm-hmm. And even the font they use looks like a cheesy old like sci-fi paperback you were reading as a kid from the library, Just that font, and they even used grainy film, like an effect on the opening credits. So I think they hooked me with the nostalgia, and then the writing was just through the roof.
Agreed. And I would say my favorite character on that show, the sheriff.
Yeah.
He was, by and large, my favorite part of that show. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, people love 11. I went to Comic-Con this year. I saw
so many 11s out there.
So many 11s.
Yeah.
But that sheriff, man, and the reason I liked him is because he had that hurt. Mm-hmm. He had that hurt deep inside of him, and he still just pushed through, and he was genuine, and he never gave up. And I loved that. That sort of like, I'm in pain, and I pushed through it to do the right thing.
Like, if there hadn't been a missing kid, he probably just would have been like that, fuck this, cruising to retirement kind of sheriff. Mm-hmm. But like that, the missing kid tapped into his own feelings for his daughter, who supposedly passed away. Mm-hmm. And
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen Stranger Things by now, come on. Get your head out of your ass. I'm sorry, that was harsh. And so, I think that was almost a very realistic character trait of his.
Yeah.
They set him up as just like that shitty, couldn't care less backwoods cop. And we've all either seen them personally, we know they're out there, just, small town, they don't care. They don't get a lot of crime. Whatever. Traffic tickets and drunk drivers. But, this motivated him, and I thought that was a cool window into his character and his personality. See, and there's going to be something with his daughter coming out in season 2. Like, that's somebody that created a character with such depth, they can really keep moving with him.
See, and I even thought that his character was slightly different. I thought his character was more the tortured soul. Mm-hmm. Like, he wasn't coasting into retirement on boredom. He was coasting to retirement on
booze.
Pain and booze and just hurt. You know what I mean? And that's why I liked that character.
Yeah. And I will say my initial, after the first 2 episodes, I remember looking at Winona Ryder's character and being like, oh, this is the sequel to Girl Interrupted. Like, this is what happened after she left the mental institution with Angelina Jolie. And this is what she had a kid and went crazy later in life.
But she didn't.
Mm.
Bum, bum.
We really need to get some audio drops in here so we can stop having JB do them himself.
I'm just going to overdub the Mario thing there.
Weep, 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 weep. That was my tube.
Was it a pipe?
No, it was a pipe, yeah.
Okay.
And the soundtrack.
Killer.
I'm a soundtrack nerd already, and that just made all the right moves to get into my heart. It was very synthy. It was done by the two guys behind the band Survive, who I'm pretty sure prior to this show didn't have a lot of publicity, and no one really knew who they were. But within the span of like the show coming out, them announcing that there's a soundtrack, their first pressing of their first album is very hard to come by. They're not repressing it. The new album that came out just this month is already like scarce in stores. You know, they do limited pressings, and it really kind of pushed them. It pushed kind of the synthwave music in general back to some of the headlines. You know, Rolling Stone did a piece on them, Pitchfork did a piece on them, and which is cool from someone like me who enjoys soundtracks and some synthy electronic stuff.
Yeah, and I believe wasn't it even Relapse Records who put out the new Survive album?
Yes, the new album was out on Relapse.
And they even admitted that part of their band name and sort of their thing as a band is they write for their albums songs that are meant to be like cinematic pieces.
Right.
And they're all kind of horror based without directly referencing horror themes or anything like that. And that's part of the band's name is Survive. And they're they're atmospheric, they're synthy, but they're very, dark and eerie.
And I will point out that, synthwave in general is different than straight up electronic music like dubstep. It's not meant to be like pumping in the club with,
it'd be a weird
some
club
strobe lights and some kids doing the molly. It's much more atmospheric and ambient almost.
So Stranger Things is actually supposedly loosely based on real life events.
Yes. There are some conspiracy theories out there.
Many.
As well as some bits from U.S. history that it was actually based on something called the Montauk Project.
Ooh.
And I've got a piece here all about the Montauk Project, written by very reliable sources at weirdus.com, scholarly reviewed, and all that good stuff. Peer-reviewed. Originally, the working title for Stranger Things was Montauk. It was going to take place on Long Island, where the actual Montauk Project happened, and then they switched it around, rewrote it a bit, and moved it to Nebraska.
Can you pause this really quick? Thank you.
So here's some history. Real fact-checked history.
Go ahead.
World War II saw the advent of many top-secret projects aimed at developing new forms of weaponry and technology. Obviously, the most famous of these was the Manhattan Project, which yielded the nuclear bombs used to end the war with Japan. Others have either been forgotten or, more sinisterly, have been covered up due to their dangerous implications and unexpected results. One of these darker experiments, according to some, took place right here in New York in the town of Montauk on Long Island's eastern end. The effects of evil experiments that took place here are still being felt. In fact, some say they're still going on.
Can you read the rest in a creepier voice?
The events on Long Island have come to be known as the Montauk Project. This phrase refers to a series of top-secret experiments in mind control, time travel, psychotronics, and the creation of black holes. These experiments were based out of an old Air Force radar station, or more accurately, in a vast complex hidden in the earth beneath this radar station.
Whoa.
How could this come to be? How could such radical experiments be hidden beneath a town just a stone's throw from the largest city in the world? The story of the Montauk Project begins not on Long Island, but in Philadelphia in 1943. The Philadelphia experiment was the informal name of the Rainbow Project, which was an attempt by the United States military to create technology that would allow vessels to achieve radar invisibility. In other words, this was an early attempt at developing what we know these days as stealth technology.
Now do it in a movie phone voice.
Like
the trailer guy.
Trailer guy? These experiments came to be focused on the USS Eldridge, a Navy destroyer based out of Philadelphia Naval Yard. According to legend, the ship was bombarded with electromagnetic energy, and it did become radar invisible. Much to everyone's surprise, it also became literally invisible.
You kept it together for so long. That was so good. Serious.
vanishing from sight. For just a few scant seconds, the ship materialized off the coast of Norfolk, Virginia, before reappearing miles away in Philadelphia. Initially, the ship seemed fine. Unfortunately, things were much worse than they seemed.
Wait, is Philadelphia a coastal city?
Yeah, I think it's got a little
Okay, move on.
tip, maybe. Geography, not our thing. A number of crew members of the Eldridge had died horrible deaths in the process of the teleportation. They were literally fused to the metal parts of the ship.
Whoa.
Those who didn't die were driven to the point of insanity by this terrible ordeal. Obviously, government officials and military brass were horrified by the result of their experiments. Official funding was quickly pulled from the Philadelphia experiment, and the Manhattan Project took focus as far as secret military weapons spending went. But there were those, both scientists and military officials, who wanted to continue exploring the possibilities created by the results of the experiments in the Philadelphia Naval Yard. True, dangers were great, but the potential for new types of superweaponry were even greater. Congress, however, refused to fund any further endeavors by those who wished to expand on the results of the Philadelphia experiment. So these scientists and military men went over the heads of Congress.
Congress?
Right.
Every time.
Every time.
You stop whenever you want.
Oh, now you tell me. 3 hours later, I've read a novel. Various
Just
voices.
pretend there was an ellipses and read the last sentence of the article.
Apparently, this base was also in cooperation with Mitchell Air Force Base on Long Island.
Mitchell. Every time with those guys.
You can read about all of New York's unexplained phenomena and unsolved mysteries in our book, Weird New York.
Oh. And I'll point out for anyone who's listening, if you're listening to this, Friday, October 28th. That's probably going to be today, the day that this podcast is out.
Listen quickly.
If you are in Poughkeepsie, come to Darkside Records. We're actually having a Stranger Things soundtrack listening party. The soundtrack is going to be out on smoke and clear colored LP. It's an indie exclusive. We have very limited quantities of it.
Yeah.
But come out Friday night, starting around 6 o'clock. We're going to play the soundtrack. We're going to eat waffles. We're going to play some D&D. We're going to play some Munchkin. We're going to have prizes. You can come in costume. It's going to be fun.
You can shave your head and be 11, or drink a lot and be the sheriff.
You have
two options for costumes.
You'll always be an 11 to me.
Oh,
See what I did there. So let's talk about some other Netflix shows. Let's move into the Marvel cinematic.
Marvel on Netflix has been huge.
The Marvel streaming universe.
I guess, yeah. I don't even know what you would call it. It's supposedly there are going to be some crossovers into the cinematic universe. Right now, they're just kind of crossing into each other because they're setting themselves up for the Defenders. So, for those of you new to the Marvel Netflix scene,
welcome. It's been 2 years now.
You're late. Basically, they're taking four of the... Oh, some of them are kind of main characters in Marvel, but they're not like the fighting aliens characters. You have Daredevil, you have Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, who form the kind of the street-level superhero team of the Defenders. And so these shows are setting up, I believe, which is next spring, is the Defenders Season 1.
And I'll even mention, I'll just kick things off talking about Luke Cage, because that's the one that just most recently came out.
Yeah, that is the most current series.
And you have already finished it.
I have.
I'm 3 episodes in. And what I like about it, I obviously won't get too deep into this because I'm just starting the series, but what I like about it is that it is ground level.
Yeah.
It's not, exactly like you said, it's not fighting aliens, it's not saving the world, it's not saving the city. It is just, like, it's real. Yeah. It's a guy and his neighborhood and him worrying about his neighborhood and his friends and protecting people he cares about, and I kind of like that.
And he's I know you're 3 or 4 episodes in, you said, but I mean, he's, for the longest time in this first season, he's very resistant to the fact that he has a responsibility to do more than just kind of hide himself away.
He obviously never had a Ben Parker in his life.
No Ben Parker for this guy.
That's a shame.
He was an ex-con. No Ben Parker for ex-cons. And that's one of the interesting things. Like, it is very ground level. And it almost, we'll do another, maybe like an update when you finish it. We can do like full impressions of the show. It almost annoyed me a bit because the storyline is very thematically similar to Jessica Jones in the sense that it's this discovery of the powers. How can I use them responsibly? What do I do with them? And so it is very much that Ben Parker, like, power and responsibility storyline that these people need to learn for themselves, which admittedly is a little played out in the Marvel Universe. But I'm hoping that this has laid the groundwork for better plot lines in the future. But that was one of my critiques of Luke Cage, was that it was very thematically similar to Jessica Jones, and that he's learning what to do with himself.
And this was even my critique, being into it as far as I am. And obviously, if this spoils anything, don't say anything. But I'm not sure where this falls in the timeline.
No.
I'm not sure if this... hold on. I'm not sure if the series are meant... If going back to Daredevil and their 2 seasons, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage... I don't know if they're meant to be like a sequence, like if they're meant to be in order, or if this is a past tense that happened before. For all I know, obviously I'll find out shortly, but the end of it could be him meeting Jessica Jones, and that's the end of Luke Cage season 1, thus tying to the beginning of Jessica Jones season 1. But that's the only thing I'm unsure of. Obviously
They'll clear that up pretty quick.
Okay.
Yeah. That's not a spoiler at all. It is after Jessica Jones.
Well, you just spoiled it.
That's not a spoiler,
That's
though.
A spoiler.
That
That's exactly the thing I just said. I said if it's a spoiler, don't tell me.
It's not really a spoiler.
Oh, God. Now I know.
If I told you that everyone died, that's a spoiler.
Now I know how our listeners feel.
Oh, God.
Bored and disgusted. All right, well, another one, Daredevil Season 2. We talked about Daredevil in the last episode. We even touched on Daredevil Season 2 a little bit in the last episode. I really enjoyed Daredevil Season 2.
Daredevil in general, Season 1 and 2, is top of the net. There's only 3 different characters now in the Netflix universe, but he's my favorite. I've always been kind of a Daredevil fan. Like, he's got that... I've been a Batman fan my whole life, and he's got a very similar kind of thing going on there.
Both written by Frank Miller at very successful periods.
Yep. But Season 2 was pretty cool.
That
and you know what I liked about it? Just start going back to Season 1 quickly, is they kind of skipped over that Ben Parker theme. Like, Season 1, he's out to, like, deal out justice. Like, he's already in, a mask.
Which, Season 1 had the flashbacks with him and his dad, who was a boxer, and him, like...
Yep, and then he met Stick and trained with him and stuff like that.
I guess then they elaborated on that in Season 2 as well. They got deeper into the Stick storyline.
Yeah, because you meet Elektra in Season 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is obviously a very important part in Matt Murdock's life. You also meet the Punisher.
Oh, God.
Who
killed it.
Yeah.
No pun intended. My God.
That's what you did there. But you didn't.
The Punisher. Played by Jon Bernthal.
Jon Bernthal, that's right.
God. So good. And we talked about this last podcast about how I thought that he is the right embodiment of the Punisher in the sense that he's no one-liners, no little jokes, no fancy footwork, no crazy elaborate costume. He just fucking kills people.
Yeah.
Doesn't say shit. He just murders them and he moves the fuck on. And that's what makes him great.
And that's what the Punisher is supposed to be.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just a brute. And that's why, he's such an anti-hero in the Marvel Universe, is because... Yes, the people he takes out are bad drug dealers or organized criminals, but he doesn't even send them to prison. He fucking destroys them. Well,
you can really delve pretty deep into that concept of just he, raises a huge question that's going on in our country and culture today, talking about the death penalty.
Yep.
Like it raises all those things, and I think that's why that's part of why his portrayal in the series is right.
Yes.
Because it's not like glorifying it or like sugarcoating it. It is just merciless and brutal and no questions.
And his introduction opens with that. Like, he just destroys a bar full of Irish gangsters. And it's not, he doesn't monologue with them. He doesn't even tell them who he is or why they're dying.
Yep.
They just fucking die.
Exactly. He did a great job. Marvel has already announced that they're giving him his own solo spinoff, which I know we talked about this last podcast as well, but like they have yet to have a dud.
Yeah.
Marvel has yet to have anything that has truly flopped. And John Bernthal's Punisher
It's interesting.
is great.
And it's, I mean, along the same veins as his Punisher, but they've managed to do different things and not have a flop. Like Jessica Jones is very different from Daredevil, and very different from the Marvel movies that are out there. In the sense, you know, like she's not initially a very likable person. Like she's an alcoholic. She's makes her money, kind of exploiting her power to be a private detective and snoop around and stuff like this. And yet that series is still amazingly well written and really impressive. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, totally contrary to Daredevil, who you can't help but like. You know, like he's so badass and he's a lovable blind guy who's a lawyer and, you know, has a sidekick you named your dog after. Mm-hmm. So they clearly have enough talent in their writer pool and directors to create characters from different angles. Like, it's not all like the Captain America, like leading the charge type hero. Like you do have other personality types.
Mm-hmm. Conflicted heroes, dark heroes.
And that's one of the things, you know, the Avengers they're kind of all very like type A personality. Like they're just very similar, and they, you know, that creates some of the headbutting and Civil War and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But now with these other series, you have other perspectives. You know, some of these people don't want to be heroes. Like they have no desire to be in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that leads to a different media, television, and Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
which I am not caught up on.
How far are you into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I don't know. I haven't watched it in a long time. I'm way behind. I stopped. I'm going to admit I kind of stopped. They lost me for a little bit there. I've done this before. Like I watched part of season 1, and I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm just going to get off this train for a little bit." And then I kind of got back on them. Like, "Oh shit, Patton Oswalt. Okay, I'll watch some of this." And then I think I got up to where the girl who was supposed to be Quake discovers her Quake ability.
Okay.
So the introduction of the I want to say the Eternals, but it's not them. It's the
Inhumans.
Inhumans, yeah.
Well, you've missed.
I mean, you can tell me things. That's fine.
You haven't missed much.
Okay.
I have watched all of season 3, and I'm almost caught up on season 4. And I'm not gonna lie. No disrespect to Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I feel like I partly am watching just because I'm like, you know what? I've invested this much.
Right. You almost want to watch to see.
Might as well just see this thing through.
What's going to happen? Because sometimes they do have, you know, a little bit of crossover with the films and other things. Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing I like, is that they do, when a movie comes out, which I know they do these things strategically.
Like I think it was season 2 was the direct follow-up to Winter Soldier. And, you know, the kind of the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they were all on the run because Hydra was everywhere.
And even season 3 touches on the Sokovia Accords and what happened in Avengers 2.
Okay.
So, and now season 4, they've introduced the Ghost Rider, or a new Ghost Rider, I should say. I wonder if they're going to reference the iconic movie version of Ghost Rider. And by iconic,
Nicolas Cage?
I mean terrible.
The new Ghost Rider doesn't have the skull anymore, right? Isn't it like...
He has the skull.
Is it actually a skull, though?
Well, his skin burns off, and the skull comes out.
Okay.
So, it is stylized, but...
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've seen a couple episodes. It's, it's a great, rainy day. Nothing really else is on. Maybe you're sick.
So are you giving this like an Attack of the Clones?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay, Revenge of the Attack of the Clones?
Yeah, Attack of the Clones is probably a fair. And I really hate to admit that because I love Clark Gregg, and even the show has been enjoyable. I'll say the frame of reference that I have is that I watch, and often Jenny will come in and she'll go, "I don't know what you're watching, but all I hear from the other room is terrible acting." And I go, "It's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D." Because she goes, "Yeah, I know what it is."
I knew what it was. That was a rhetorical question.
That's the level that the show is at in our house.
I would agree, because I mean, I loved Coulson when he was like the sidekick character to Nick Fury in the first few Marvel movies. And
Even season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., when S.H.I.E.L.D. was in full swing, I miss that.
Yeah. But again, like, I almost feel like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was Marvel kind of being like, oh, people love this guy. How can we make money on their love of him, despite the fact that he was clearly the sacrificial, like, knife in the heart into Avengers to get everyone motivated to go fight evil and blah, 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 blah.
I always assumed Joss Whedon just came in one day and was like, don't worry. I've got you. I'm going to give you a show. It doesn't matter if you're dead. Just go with it. Don't worry about it. I got this. And then he went to Marvel and was like, we're giving him a show. And Marvel was like, he's dead? And he went, I'm Joss Whedon.
Listen, he wasn't dead.
You're doing whatever I want. So
That's right.
just do the show.
You want Avengers 2? That's right. You give this man a show.
Sorry about Avengers 2. Can he still have a show? I'll just show myself out.
It's like, yeah, he still has a show, but we're giving it to the D-list writers. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I've only ever seen Clark Gregg he was in The West Wing as a recurring, like, FBI agent. And so he always seems to play, like, that kind of suit and tie special agent type character, which I find interesting. I've never seen him out of a suit.
I don't think I've ever also seen him outside of a suit. And I had a friend of mine who we used to talk nerdy things at the Derby in Poughkeepsie on Wednesday nights at trivia, and she informed me that I had to watch a Joss Whedon-directed reimagining of A Midsummer Night's Dream starring Clark Gregg.
In a suit?
Spoiler alert, I didn't watch it. I'm sorry. No disrespect to Joss Whedon, to Clark Gregg, or
the girl in the bar.
To Emma. No disrespect. I just... that ship has sailed.
Not a Shakespeare man.
I'm not a reimaginings fan.
Okay. I will just quickly kind of jump back with my ratings for the Netflix Marvel shows.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to give Daredevil, I think it's an Empire. Like, I've been on board with that all along. Like, the introductions to the characters are good. They didn't really overplay the Punisher. Mm-hmm. He kind of kept popping up here and there as kind of a thorn in everybody's side, as he tends to do.
I'd give it a New Hope.
Okay.
A solid New Hope.
That's where I'm at with Jessica Jones. I was going to give her solid New Hope. I think there's a lot of potential for her as a character.
I think I liked Jessica Jones a little bit less than Daredevil, and specifically, it was because there were points in the series where, like, I really enjoyed the beginning and I really enjoyed the end. Mm-hmm. But there was a couple points in a couple episodes towards the middle where I just remember, like, with Daredevil, it was like I was in it, and there were episodes where I was very aware that I was like watching actors on a soundstage, and I don't want to say I was bored, but there were points that I felt dragged a little bit, and it didn't grab me the same way Daredevil did with its pacing, maybe. Mm-hmm. But still enjoyed it. But I would say I would put it a notch below Daredevil.
I agree. I think we're just a notch off in our ratings.
Okay. What's the third Star Trek movie? What's the third Star Wars? It's Phantom Menace.
Revenge of the Sith.
Isn't that the sixth one's original name? No, it's Revenge of the Jedi, but Jedis wouldn't get revenge.
Yeah,
so Revenge of the Sith. Okay.
Jessica Jones, for me, I think a huge part of that was the villain. I thought David Tennant, otherwise known as Doctor Who,
the Purple Man,
was an amazing villain. He was legitimately creepy.
He was so creepy.
Yeah.
That's what made him great.
And we'll revisit this when we go back to after you finish Luke Cage, because some of my critiques kind of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage are very similar beyond that typical storyline. Mm-hmm. But he was amazing in that role.
Agreed.
And I'm kind of sad that, he's no longer with us. The Purple Man, not David Tennant. I mean,
either one.
He'll be immortal. Okay. But I think that he really helped kind of pull you into that alternative character that Jessica Jones is. Mm-hmm. So even when her character, like her plot line was kind of lacking a bit in the middle, like you said, I was just waiting for his next scene and like what creepy shit is he going to do next?
Yeah.
So I think that really helped drive that forward. And then by the end, it all kind of wraps up nicely and she's more developed and I'm looking forward to what they do with her next.
And you know who I really enjoyed as well? Their interpretation of Patsy Walker. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Like how they spun it halfway through and they like acknowledged her character in the book from the 70s and like they did these very subtle plays on her name and treating her like a child star as Patsy Walker, like a Hannah Montana style thing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed all of that. Because remember they gave her Trish Walker was her name, and then halfway through, then they acknowledged Patsy
That that was her character.
And I really enjoyed how they handled that. I thought that was a very well done part.
I mean, the heroes aside, the sideline characters, the sidekicks, and other recurring characters in these series are really well done.
Yeah.
Whether it's Foggy Nelson,
Karen Page,
Patsy Walker, Misty Knight, they do all these really well. And I think their attention to detail is what makes these so good.
Yeah.
Like, all the characters are watchable and enjoyable.
Agreed. Interweaving storylines between multiple characters that never get boring or you get lost, and everyone kind of brings out more in the others.
They tie together so far very little bits and pieces here and there. It's either a reference to that guy downtown in Hell's Kitchen who dresses up like a Daredevil. In Luke Cage, they're like the chick who shot you in the face. Yeah, there's little bits and pieces here and there. Obviously, the Defenders is going to tie everyone together. Sometimes I'm going to admit it kind of annoys me at points. You haven't seen this episode yet.
Save it.
Oh,
Save
God.
It. Save
so
it.
slow and old. Fine.
So, okay. Well, we'll just move on. We'll talk about something else really quick.
What's next on your list? Do the same list.
Let's talk about something that's near and dear to your heart.
Okay. Tacos.
There's an upcoming Harry Potter book.
Oh, it's actually been out for some time.
Does Voldemort die?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Basically, and this is significant because there is also another Harry Potter universe movie coming out in November. But over the summer, they released Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which, despite the fact that there were disclaimers when the book was announced like a year ago, that it is in fact a stage play. And it is a play that was co-written by J.K. Rowling with some other guy, who isn't worth mentioning, for a stage production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which will be taking place in London. And it's a whole new kind of thing in the Harry Potter universe. And that it was written as a stage play. That means stage directions, it's all written like dialogue lines. There was still apparently like an outrage among people who went and bought the book and were like, what the fuck? This is just a play. I want a book. And the publishers are like, hey, we told you a year ago, it's not our fault that you don't read and you bought this book anyway. They just didn't get it. They didn't understand. They're waiting for like the novelization of this thing. But no, it's just a fucking play. It's co-written by J.K. Rowling. And in the end, I was a little disappointed by it. I killed it in like a night. As I tend to do with Harry Potter things. Yes. I'm not gonna lie, I took off work to read book 7 when I came out in college. I just took 2 days and I just did nothing else but read it. I love the Harry Potter books. I think it hit me right at that like age. Like I was able to actually grow up with the characters as the books come out. And it's, the first few are very young adultish and childish, and they're kids. They're running around doing magical things. And the plot actually matures really well by the time you get to the 7th book. You just got to stick with it. Stop nodding at me in your patronizing look in your eyes. So I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I was disappointed by the play. And a little disappointed that they now consider it canon. Like, this is supposedly what happens to some of these characters after the fact. It was just... It felt like a money grab from J.K. Rowling a little bit.
Well, speaking of money grabs, they've announced a new Harry Potter franchise series of movies.
That's right.
Set in America.
Yep.
It's called Fantastic Beasts.
And Where to Find Them.
And the first one comes out on the 18th of this month. I'm sorry, on the 18th of November.
And I'm going to see it. Like, I'm excited for the movie. It looks cool. But I was a little kind of put off when they announced it's going to be like a series of 5 movies.
Oh, it's 5 now.
I think it's supposed to be 5, isn't it? What did they say?
Oh my god, I have no idea.
Okay,
I
think they
I'm not
announced,
a
like,
pothead.
5 movies. Okay, that's fair. Anyway, so it's basically these movies. I believe J.K. Rowling has written the screenplay, at least for this first one. Mm-hmm. I hope she's going to be involved in the other ones.
Not me.
One of my... Listen, you stay out of this.
Okay.
You let grown-ups talk now. One of my critiques... I actually hated the Harry Potter movies. The adaptations they did of the books.
Strong words.
I thought they sucked. And
Wow.
even when I was a kid, I was probably like 13 or 14 when the first movie came out. At that age, I thought it sucked. Like, I was disappointed because I think the movie came out and like the 3 or 4 books had been published. And I thought they really rushed it. Knowing, as if you read the books, that there are 7 years at Hogwarts, there are going to be 7 books. They should have waited.
So wait, so Hogwarts is like high school?
Yes.
It's like grades 7 through
12, basically. They graduated at the age of 17 from Hogwarts.
So it's like 5th grade through senior
You start at
year.
11, and then, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically like 5th grade.
Okay. Those are awkward years. Developmental years?
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yep. A lot of Hide the Wand is played
No,
in the closets.
God. Here we go. Move.
The
5
higher academic discussion of Harry Potter has gone down.
5 seconds in the Shroud of Invisibility.
It's called the Invisibility Cloak, but never
Whatever.
mind. I think you're getting your wizards mixed up. Anyway, so my critique of the movies in general was that they were so eager to get these made and collect on the money that was being made from the books and the Harry Potter fans that they jumped the gun. They started making the movies before J.K. Rowling had actually finished writing the entire storyline of the books. And so the mood of a lot of the early movies just doesn't match up. They don't do a lot of character development. The first movie is just kids riding brooms. I was very disappointed, even as a child, watching these movies. Very disappointed. So Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is the first one that is not based on a book. Like, it's an original screenplay that is inspired by Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is actually a book from the Harry Potter universe.
Okay.
And it's like an offshoot. So
they're
I'm
not-
hoping that there's no basis for comparison.
So they're not putting out a book series to match the movie series?
No. And that I'm hoping is going to be the saving grace of these movies, is that even if it sucks, I want to read the book first. I won't know how bad it sucks.
Okay, and if I have not seen the Harry Potter franchise movies, can I just start over with Fantastic Beasts? Do I need to know anything
I
from
doubt
the old ones?
There'll probably be like little like homages to some other character names and places, but I don't even. From my understanding, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them takes place before Harry Potter's timeline.
Oh.
So it takes place, I believe, it looks like 1920s New York. So it's not even lateral timelines. Like, this is... Harry's not born yet. There is no Voldemort.
Remember, we're fact-checking this in real time on our website if you just go to darksiderecordsgallery.com.
Yeah, we hired that guy who complained about Grand Moff Tarkin. He's our fact checker.
We have fact-checkers on our site.
So, summing up, I'm looking forward to the movie. I think it'll be cool. I'm going to keep an open mind about it.
Okay. For you, I'll do the same. If you want to go opening night, I'll go with you.
Oh. Be my Ron?
I'll be your Mothman. If you'll
Wrong
be my Darth Vader.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, let's talk about. There's a couple movies that are coming out.
Yeah, we got a lot. We've done the summer movies. Mm-hmm. Covered all those. Wrapped that up nicely.
I mean, really,
Put to bed our disappointment with Suicide Squad and Warner Brothers in general.
There's one movie coming out next week.
Yeah.
Which is Marvel's Doctor Strange, which I'm not going to lie, I'm excited about.
I'm excited on multiple levels for that.
I just saw it earlier on the internet that it has a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
From the preview critics and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, take that for what it's worth. I mean, I don't remember what Suicide Squad had.
It
from
had
the
like
preview
90%.
critics.
They went back and recut it, and now it has like 10.
Exactly. So we'll see what actually happens. But there's a bunch of movies coming out next year. There's going to be... I guess we'll start in the Marvel universe, even though this is 20th Century Fox. They fucking faked us out, man.
Yeah.
They fucking pulled a switcheroo.
It's
Motherfuckers.
a double fake.
So good.
It's a double fake.
Well done, 20th Century Fox. Because on March 3rd, they're releasing Logan.
Yep.
They fooled us with that Weapon X shit. Got us all
Which
disappointed.
makes me wonder, like, Now I'm going to have to pay like $1 million to get that web domain from them. weaponx.com as my homepage. It's just a picture of me.
And we'll get back to that. Also coming out from Marvel is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which is coming out on May 5th.
Yep.
They just released their first teaser trailer.
It looks just like the first one. A lot of fun.
Exactly. Looks on par with the first one. I'm honestly not going to think too much about it. I'm going to go see it. I enjoyed the first one.
It's hilarious. It's fun.
I'm going to eat popcorn and giggle. And that's, if I get that much out of the movie, I'm good.
Yep.
DC has a couple movies coming out next year, starting with The Justice League, which comes out a year from next month, November 17th, 2017.
Yay.
They released a trailer for it at Comic-Con.
They did. It's a lot of...
Ironically, they released a Wonder Woman trailer. That's coming out next year.
Oh, that is, yep.
And they released the Justice League trailer, and I have to say I'm more excited to see Wonder Woman than I am to see Justice League. Going back to our discussion about Zack Snyder and him being given the keys to the castle.
Hashtag kill Zack Snyder.
Let's just say
man.
giggles and popcorn. If I get that much...
Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be giggles. Like, you'll just, like, binge eat popcorn and just hope that you choke. I mean...
Yeah, that's going to be
It disappoints me so much as, like, a lifelong Batman fan that Zack Snyder was born.
Well, as a Batman fan, also, DC movies have announced that Ben Affleck is, in fact, starring and directing in a Batman sequel called...
The Batman.
The Batman.
Yes.
The Batman.
No, that's plural. It's just the Bat.
No, it's the Batman. It's like Gary Batman would be his name.
Kind of like, what's the character from The Tick? Batmanuel?
Exactly.
That, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that, because I am probably one of the few people out there who didn't mind him as Batman and Bruce Wayne. I thought that he actually brought a lot to that role, and he took it seriously, because I know he's a fan. Like, he is a comic fan.
And let's be real, this is not his first venture into comic book movies, and his first venture did not go as well.
No, it did not.
Second venture didn't go great, but his first one, holy shit.
Third time's the charm. Well, actually, this will be technically the fourth one, because it's coming out after Justice League, but...
Yep.
I'm optimistic. I hope that if Zack Snyder tries to touch the script, he will get a bat brand to the face. I think I almost feel like Ben Affleck was I won't say disappointed, but frustrated with the reviews and the outcome of Batman vs Superman as some of the fans were. Mm-hmm. Like, I get that. Like, it was really almost a labor of love for him. Like, he enjoyed doing it. He thought it was going to be better than it kind of turned out to be. So I'm hoping that his incarnation of his solo movie will be better.
Mm-hmm. We shall see. Scarce details about that movie so far, but
yep, very hush-hush.
It is a 2018 release date. It is a ways out.
Still on the horizon, yeah. It's still out there.
So we'll see.
And we'll say they did lighten up Batman as a character in the Justice League trailer. Like, he was... Mm-hmm. I think there was a joke. One joke.
I know. That's a big deal for DC movies.
And hopefully that'll change, how it flows a little bit.
Yep. We shall see. Mm-hmm. Well, we will cut future podcasts. We'll talk about all those movies as they come out. We'll probably do another one, let's say, in about a month.
Mm-hmm. Give you enough time to finish Luke Cage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get through most of Luke Cage.
Okay. Then
I can promise that much.
Okay.
So, thanks for listening. Once again, if you have anything you would like to hear us talk about on this podcast,
tell me.
You can
tell my fiance, and she'll tell me, and we'll talk about it.
Okay. You could use the hashtag Dorkside Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at DorksideP. I realized I was giving the wrong Twitter handle out the last podcast.
P?
Because Dorkside Podcast was already taken by somebody who should give us their Twitter handle.
She should. Is it she? I can't remember. I think it's a chick, isn't it?
Let's say she. Okay. So, Internet, if you want to go ahead and send a DM to Dorkside Podcast and let them know that they should give us their Twitter handle.
Hashtag relinquish your name.
Relinquish the Dorkside.
Let go of the dork.
Stop into Darkside Records, 611 Dutchess Turnpike in Poughkeepsie, New York. Go to our website, darksiderecordsandgallery.com. Listen to our podcast. Listen to the Darkside Records podcast. We have a lot more coming. We have a lot of live events coming up that are certainly quite nerdy. We hope to see you for the Stranger Things listening party. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tonight.
Or last night, depending on
how this goes. Yeah, we'll say. So, on behalf of the Dorkside Podcast, I'm JB.
I'm Berto.
Thanks for listening.
Live long and prosper. No, we've done that. Shit. We need an outro.
I will find you. I will kill you.
To the chopper.
What have you been feeding this thing? Plums. See you next episode.